The organisation that Owain was part of.
Yeah.
So say it for.
Oh, you put me on the spot. I can't do it either. You know, it's something about the mything. NJ. Wait.
Yo, what's happening? Welcome back to Wales in the Movies. I'm Nick, and today I'm joined by Lindsay Walker. Lindsay, what's happening?
How's it going, Nick?
I've got a bad back, but you know, I'm doing all right. Like,
yeah, I've got. We're in the same club, thanks. I've got a really bad neck, so we can.
Wait till you get older. Like, honestly, 2 minutes in the wrong position, sleeping, and you're done for a week. Yeah. So for our viewers, hello viewers, nice to see you all again. Could you just introduce yourself? Who are you? What are you up to?
I'm a Welsh filmmaker, and I've just made a film called WELSHMAN. Got it there for you nicely, nice little plug. Yeah, so I've been working in industry for 10 plus years, but this is probably my first big commitment to saying, like, I'm a director. I think I've been avoiding it for a couple of years now, but yeah, so this is my first sort of out there film, really.
Interesting. Okay, I'll get onto that obviously quite soon. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about growing up, really, your background, what part of Wales are you from, and how's that informed what you're doing?
Okay, yeah, I'm from Anglesey, born in Bangor and lived on Anglesey my whole life. Growing up here was amazing. Growing up as a kid in Kenrice Bay on Anglesey, just a small little village. Yeah, just the best place to grow up, really. The only really thing I had was football, though. I wouldn't say there was anything really creative. It wasn't until I got to teenage years that I kind of lent into photography. And then that kind of evolved into moving pictures and storytelling and stuff like that. But yeah, growing up, it was just manhunt and a small village and being able to, you know, play out as long as you wanted. And then football was like religion to me.
Cool. I was lucky enough to have a summer in Bangor in 2019, and
yeah.
Apart from a couple of trips up the north, that was my first kind of real exposure, and I miss it. You know, it's just an epic spot, isn't it?
It is. It's really nice. There's a certain energy up here as well. I love South Wales as well. I've spent a lot of time in Tenby as a kid, so in the south. But yeah, there's something really nice up here. But it was never cool growing up in North Wales. It wasn't until I got to university and they're like, oh, so where are you from? And I was like, Anglesey. Like, oh, cool. And I was like, cool. When did that become cool? You know, growing up, it was never the in thing to.
Yeah, well, in terms of like the British Isles, like the north of Wales is perhaps one of them spots which just isn't really kind of spoken about much. Don't really see many English-speaking northern accents on UK telly, do we? Yet.
Yeah.
Did you go to film school?
I did. I went to Bangor University. Yeah. So I did my undergrad in creative studies, which is great because you could do different modules and they were kind of, you could dip into maybe radio production, screenwriting, and then, you know, hands-on film production, film theory. And then obviously throughout that, you kind of find what you wanted. But I already knew that I wanted to sort of edit and do camera stuff. But it was really nice to have all the other bits. And then sort of after that, I always said, I'm never doing the Masters. There's just no point in doing the Masters. And then a week before the Masters was going ahead, I was like, I have to do it. And so I did the Masters in film production. So that was literally you'd make like 6 films sort of every semester. So you'd write the film, make the film, write the film, make the film. And obviously you'd then help out your classmates, because I think there was only 7 or 8 of us. So they'd be doing the same. So you'd be working on there. So it was like a real, you know, full on, the whole year was writing and filming. It was great. Really good.
So you've been working, and you told me on email, or you've been working in TV.
I've always been in the habit of making my own stuff. Even before uni, I was sort of probably the only one that was buying my own equipment and getting photography out there. I think I'd had a few photographs in magazines and stuff, and I always had quite good encouragement. and sort of continued on with that. And then as soon as uni finished, because obviously we were making these films non-stop, I didn't want it to end, and I didn't want it to be an excuse for me to stop making stuff. So I kind of went hell for leather, and I think I'd made something like 6 music videos and a short film, helped out on another short film, and I had loads of content that was just constantly churning stuff out. And then I took it to a TV production company. They were looking for somebody new, kind of like an intern. And so I took all that big portfolio and managed to get my foot in the door there. So, and yes, I've been doing that on and off since, always got a foot in the door doing TV stuff. So mainly either assistant camera. My recent one was a documentary for S4C, and I was assistant producer, and that was great. That was really, really like more of a creative input. But other than that, it's like data wrangling. So getting all that footage together and assistant editing and stuff like that, prepping it all ready for sort of big edits, stuff like that.
So you mentioned something interesting just now, is that you've been putting this off, did you say? Did I hear you right?
I don't know why. I've shied away from it a bit. I think maybe not feeling like I was capable to direct. Always been quite encouraged behind the camera, and camera work, cinematography is fantastic, and I have done my own short film and then obviously music video and stuff directed, but never really really committed to saying, oh yeah, I directed it. It's always been, oh yeah, have you seen my camera work? A bit more like on that foot of it. But this is the first thing where I'm ready. I think I'm ready now. I'm ready to, have a bit more confidence in it and kind of.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because people say filmmaker or director, but there's so many more skills that you've got to have, isn't there? If you want to have a career.
So multi-layered, yeah. Especially now, people seem to really want like a one-man band sort of thing. Whenever you walk into any TV production company, it's like, well, can you do boom? And how are you on the camera? What cameras have you used? It's they want somebody that's doing everything. And I think COVID has really made that even worse. It's kind of a crew of 3 people on a 3-hour documentary. It's like, yeah.
I want to kind of come back to that question, that point later when we talk about the film The Welshman. So let's dive on in. So I'll just briefly talk to the audience. They may have seen vlogs I've made about this. They may have seen my Twitter feed or yours. I occasionally get like stuff like this sent my way. And in uni, I saw some Welsh kind of touching Welsh nationalism student films. One of them made about Capel Celyn. So I've seen plenty of this stuff. So I saw the link to the trailer. So I thought, okay, someone's made a film. Wow, okay, it's going to end up on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And then I watched the trailer later in the day. And as I said on that vlog video, I just thought, hang on, there's something different about this. I couldn't quite get my thoughts together as to what it was, but it just looked different. So your film is called The Welshman.
Mm-hmm.
And can you just tell the audience, what's your pitch? What is this film? Who and what is it about?
The Welshman is about Owain Williams, the actions that he took 50 plus years ago to sort of stand up for what he believed in when it came to Capel Celyn. The film starts with the sacrifice of being Welsh, is to stand up for your country. And I've kind of stuck with that that feeling of being Welsh, is to kind of go, oh no, we count too, we're a country too. And so to get that across right from the get-go, that Owain Williams made sacrifices that people maybe don't know about yet. I think he's always been painted as maybe a bit of a villain, or people maybe not quite understood, but essentially he threw a rock into the pond, and that ripple effect is, we're feeling that now, with Cofiwch Dywedyn and Yes Cymru and stuff like that.
What are your motivations for the project, for making it?
I think for me it was quite alarming that I didn't know this story. I didn't know, born in Wales, lived in Wales my whole life, and I didn't find out about it until 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And that was quite shocking to me, that I didn't know. Obviously, schools I've been in are Welsh, and never once remember. I don't even remember learning about Owain Glyndŵr, let alone Tywedyn.
This is not an uncommon situation for us, of course, in Wales.
Yeah, to have some insight into that. And so the whole thing came about organically, to be honest, because he's my fiance's father. And she'd asked, would you just film him? Just film some of the stories he's always, told me. I said, yeah, of course. And then obviously as we sat down, I love camera stuff anyway, so obviously it's going to be cinematic the way I film him. But then as he was talking, I just thought, God, there's so much going on here. And so I just let the camera run for 2 hours, just let him talk for 2 hours straight, And then when I got that back to edit, I thought, how do I, where do I start with I just let him, I've prompted him here and there. There's been a few prompts throughout it, but ultimately we've just let him tell it like it is. And where do I go with that in the edit? So I kind of put it off for about 6 months. I was too overwhelmed to even approach it, So then the motivation for that after has come with, this guy has got a really great story that hasn't been told in this way before, because either anytime he's done interviews, it's like, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that about Prince Charles, or you can't say that at all. I'll have to cut that out, and that really frustrates him. And I thought, well, I'm in a really privileged position here where I've got access to this story, and if I don't apply for funding, I specifically didn't apply for funding thinking that then they'll go, no, you can't say that. I thought if I do it off my own back and do it my own way, then this story could hopefully be told the way it deserves to be.
So you're saying that if you had applied for funding before shooting it, then you might not have been able to cover them.
Yeah, or even like halfway through, because obviously filming it there's no bother. I've got cameras, we set up a light, we film the interview, and then obviously during the edit process, I'm starting to think, oh, I could do with some help here, money wise, especially archive footage. The film's got no archive footage in it. It's all recreated stuff. Because anytime I looked into it, I just thought, I'm going to just get caught with, you have to cut that out. If we're going to put money in this, which does happen, you can't say that, and you can't say that for this amount of time, or you can't show this and things like that. And I really I just wanted Owain to be able to tell his story, and the same with copyright stuff. If I use anything archive, well, then it's got a 5-year shelf life. I have to pay for it again after 5 years. After this gets distributed, if it goes on YouTube and 1,000 people gravitate to it every year, and those people aren't Welsh, I want it to be up there for as long as it needs to be, and not have to worry about copyright. The story is more important.
One question that I didn't think about asking: have you seen the Netflix episode of The Crown? Have you seen that when Charles comes to Wales?
I haven't watched The Crown because the royal family in this house is not a thing that we talk about. But I did specifically watch that episode, the investiture one, because it's obviously filmed in Carnarvon as well, which is right across the water from us here. So just that cinematic interest, and then also the fact that I was telling this story, I thought I'm gonna have to watch it.
Well, Mark Lewis-Jones is just fabulous in everything he's in, and I haven't watched the other Wales one because I can't quite face that yet. But I watched the Tywysog Cymru one, and I thought it was great, to be fair.
Yeah.
But just wondering if it might raise interest in your story, because it's a kind of it's an in, isn't it? It's a more kind of commercial in to the
It is an in, and it's trying to think of ways in which we can market that, because obviously The Crown is a massive show, the amount of people that talk about it. So my motivation for that really is to get the whole story out there from a different perspective. And if it resonates with people outside of Wales, and they get an insight into what's gone on here, and maybe what the sacrifices as Welsh people who maybe have had to make, then that'd be fantastic to get to get people to be on our side a bit more, to take us a bit more seriously, because any content that comes out of Wales with our history seems to be a little bit kind of tongue-in-cheek, or sort of a bit comedic, and there's some great stories here that need to be told cinematically. It's calling out for it,
conflict,
yeah. It's great stories going on.
We don't see enough of it in our films, whether they be self-made amateur or whether they be the bigger budget ones. We don't see enough of Welsh conflict. I've written about this quite a few times. And so your ambitions to me for this seem to be not to preach to the converted. So when I saw it, I was greatly encouraged. But it sounds like almost quite pedantic, but I was greatly encouraged by a tweet I saw you answer, woman who tweeted you, and just something you wrote about it, or the account wrote about it, was that we want people outside of Wales to see this too, and to see our history on our terms. And I think that's so important, because there's too much preaching to the converted, in my opinion, within our national conversation, and we need to bring it out. So is that something you thought about a lot with regard to like the title you gave the film as well? And
definitely. And it was the reason for doing it in English as well. Could have easily done the film in Welsh. But the whole reason for doing it in English is to get other people to, listen to what's being said and what's gone on. And the title, The Welshman, as well, is something I really didn't want it to be. I've done it before. I've made films and I've tried to think of a French word that would maybe represent what's going on. Try to be artistic in that way. And really, all this film needs is to be accessible. That's all it needs, is to you put it really well in the article I'd written the other day, that it's such an easy title. It tells you what it is straight off the tin. And yes, for it to hopefully appeal to, or be easily accessible to people outside of Wales. To get Welsh people on board is fantastic. It's going to do nothing but help us keep momentum and hopefully get it distributed in the right way. But really what we want is for the story to be heard and to be seen, and to be relatable as well. That's the thing, because it really is just a human story that's going on. Somebody's just trying to fight for what they believe in, stand up for what they believe in, and that's really relatable. So to get it out there, and hopefully off the back of it, maybe teach some Welsh people that don't know the story too. That's great, because I didn't know it. My mum and dad didn't know it. They've lived here for years and they watched it and like, wow, we had no idea, absolutely no idea. So and again, the people that I've sent it to, like you said, they're not steeped in Welsh history. I wanted to get people that had no idea really about it, but had obviously some sort of idea about film and cinema and stuff like that, and but that maybe had a bit of a link to Wales, but that really didn't know much about the story at all.
It's an impressive step out of a comfort zone, I think, which has kind of bowled me over, and in that area particularly. So you talk about ambitions for the project. So that's another thing that I could tell from seeing your trailer, that you've obviously done something about film production, because people don't realize how powerful it is to see recommendations on your trailer. So trailer, which I'll insert onto this video when I edit it, the trailer looks beautiful and it looks serious, and it's got recommendations from film directors, from BBC personalities, from actors. Richard Moylan, for example, has been very vocal about it on Twitter and the trailer. So how do you go about that? And in relation to your ambitions for the project, were you thinking after you've recorded the story, do you think, right, I'm going to get this out into the cinema and this is how we're going to do it? Just talk about that if you could for the audience, like how you thought about getting people to watch it, recommend it, and then pitch it.
Yeah, I think step-by-step process, literally from the get-go, it's been organic. Every step has then been like another stepping stone. Oh yeah, this is where we could go with this now, and this is where we could go with this now, and not having too many preconceived ideas about how we're going to distribute it. I never really wanted it to just be an online thing, but it wasn't until I because as artists we're very insecure, and so I sent it to the first person just to say, what do you think of it? I've been working on it for 2 years here, it's hard for me to go, I can sit back and go, that's fucking great, that is, but someone else is going to look at it and go, I don't get it. And so my first step, as soon as I finish anything, is to send it between just a small group of friends that I trust and say, what do you think? And instead of keeping it to just 2 or 3 friends this time, I thought, well, do you know what? I've made some great contacts over the years now. I'll send it to a few people that, have got a bit more of an insight into whether it is any good. Does it translate? Does it do you understand what I'm trying to say with it? Do you know, what kind of impact is it going to have, sort of thing? And so straight off the bat, we got Georgia Gruber and Jonathan Gruber. So Georgia and Jonathan are married. Georgia's Welsh, she's a producer. And Jonathan's obviously the Hollywood director that did The Butterfly Effect and Final Destination. And yeah, so those two, that instant encouragement, I just thought, right, we're out of the gates here. So then I started to send it to other people that I'd met or had sort of worked with over the years just to get more. And I thought, you know, these recommendations are really going to help us distribute and share this film and get people interested in it, you know. I think that's really important. Like you say, whenever you watch a trailer, if you see anybody's name that goes a must watch, you're like, oh, it's a must watch, you know. It's like just simple marketing really, but equally very important for this film specifically. So yeah,
when you see it for a James Cameron film, you know that's, you know, you're going to get people saying that, but when you see it for this type of project, there's a layer of authenticity, which you know that it's people watched it, and it gives it that authenticity, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it kind of just gives it its own confidence. Like you say, you'd come across it and thought, oh, it's like a little student film. And then you've gone back and gone, hang on a minute, you know, there's a few people on this, and some of these shots look nice, and it gives the film it's a bigger confidence, you know.
Where's it gonna? So, do you know where it's gonna go? Do you know when and where it's gonna go places? Have you got that information yet?
The second, we've got Film Hub Wales on board, which is brilliant. They're going to help us distribute it around cinemas.
Wow. Okay.
Some local cinemas, which is, we're just waiting for lockdown to obviously bugger off. So that'd be great. As soon as, you know, COVID's easing a bit and lockdown ends, then it will get distributed locally, which is brilliant for me, just to try and get it out there. After that, we have been in talks with a couple of different companies on how best to do it, including Netflix, Prime, you know, Amazon Prime, BBC, all that kind of stuff. We're aiming up here, and if we get to here, that's great, you know. So at the minute, the answer is no. I'm not sure. Definitely, it will be locally in cinemas, 100%. And then after that, again, you know, when that happens and it goes to cinemas locally, that might mean that commissioners who go and watch, you know, films that are sort of promoted by Film Hub and BAFTA Cymru and all these things, then they might approach us and say, yeah, we're really interested. We would like to sort of show it. 38 minutes is the runtime. Okay. So it's just coming into the short film category, but equally, if it was to be on TV, it's an hour long, just about with ad breaks and stuff. So it's quite a good runtime to get it, you know, distributed. It's just finding the right one. Okay,
grand. I'm going to take you back to talking about Wales for a wee bit.
Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about your motivations for telling the personal story, but do you have any further motivations for making it from a Welsh perspective?
Definitely. I think just as a filmmaker, one motivation is that there's not massive, you know, there's not a big film industry here. That's massive. And to sort of, I love the idea of, I hate it when crews come here. I've applied for stuff, crews that come from England, they're shooting in Wales and they don't employ any Welsh crew. It drives me up the wall. So there's not a massive film industry within Wales.
More like a film service, isn't it? We've got a film service where
it's like made in Wales, but it doesn't mean that it's about Wales or it's using, you know, Welsh crew. It drives me nuts. And actually the film I was working on with Jonathan and Georgia, they'd made an effort that 50% of the crew was Welsh speaking. So they came up here to shoot. And I really like that. And there was people that I knew on set, you know, and, you know, they're coming into our country to film on our, you know, stunning land, but they make no effort to employ local people. It drives me crazy. So that is, as an identity, as a Welsh filmmaker, to kind of say, this is what we can do. Look at what we've got. Look at the stories that we have here as well, and are able to tell. You know, that's a big motivation of mine, definitely.
I mean, you were saying earlier, like, people who don't know Owain's story. I don't know his story, you know.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in Wales, maybe Welsh-speaking Wales a little bit more. I don't know about that, but sometimes we underestimate, like, the lack of reach of our stories. And sometimes some Welsh speakers, for all the intentions, don't realise how inhibiting it can be when you don't know a language. So, for example, if you called your film a Cymro, by this first syllable, I would be hesitating. Have I said that right?
Yeah.
And it's the title you've given it is a way in. So as I was saying, I don't know this story. Now, I'm a member of Yes Cymru. I'm someone who is currently campaigning to get Welsh history in schools. I'm fascinated by the nationalism of the 60s. Yet I don't know this story because I'm not big on reading. I don't read that many books. I know that Owain has got a book out, hasn't he? And I believe I might have even met Owain once down in when we first started Yes Cymru back in like 2016. So talking of Yes Cymru and the Welsh movement, are you a member? Are you pro? Where are you standing on that?
I'm a member. I should be a member. I am pro Yes Cymru. I think it's great. I think a lot of younger heads are sort of coming through as well and wanting to learn about their history now, maybe more than they were when I was their age, when I was growing up in the 90s. Like I said, it wasn't cool. I think there's a lot more Welsh representation going on now than there was then as well. Even down to Owain always goes on about how important it is for rugby and football in Wales, because it really is getting us all together to be proud of our country, and especially for younger people to come through with that mentality as well, because I never had it. I'm getting it now as I learn more. But so I think it's great. I think the idea of Welsh independence is brilliant. I do. I think it's great.
In terms of the future for you, before I let you go, so what themes, what ideas do you want to explore as a director?
I enjoy finding like smaller voices or minority and trying to bring it to light. I've always enjoyed that, like shining a wider light on stuff. In terms of me as a filmmaker, I'm currently in the middle of trying to get funding for a feature film version of The Welshman, which I think would be really great. I've got some producers on board as well. They're keen for it, so we're just trying to get the funding for that at the second. And just to tell some Welsh stories, I think for me right now would be brilliant. That for me at the second, to get some Welsh history out there and kind of, I guess, light a bit of a fire in the Welsh film industry. So to make films on our land about our history and stuff like that is really, it's important to me. I'm really passionate about that. But I've always enjoyed kind of finding a minority and kind of making it human. Every story is got a human element to it. It's just finding it. So kind of breaking past that veneer of what we think it is and trying to actually find the layer underneath is something I enjoy. But,
well, I massively approve of that message. Well done. I'm totally, massively, and all the adverbs, looking forward to seeing it. I can't.
And genuinely, Nick, thank you too for your support and helping us as well. I really mean it, helping us promote it and being so positive about it. Every little bit of positivity towards it helps keep momentum.
Well, one of the good things about me is I'm not very good at telling porky pies. So if I'm being enthusiastic, it's genuine, right?
Yeah. No, honestly, we really appreciate it.
Improv, you're doing great. So I'm going to say ta-ra. I've been Nick. This is Telling Welsh Stories. Thanks for watching Wales in the Movies. And I'll head you over to Lindsay's to say ta-ra.
Diolch. Thank you for watching and thank you for supporting The Welshman.